the moment you should quit your job and start your own company. Hi there, I'm Joe Simonds, like diamonds. This is the Joe Simonds Like Diamonds show where I give you one big actionable item, something you can take away with, usually getting you one step closer to happiness and more fulfillment, and usually 7 minutes or less. I've gone over a couple times, so I will apologize later if I go over on this one. This is an important one, and this subject of, when should I quit my job? When's the perfect time to quit my job to do something that you maybe were a little bit more excited about, or maybe has more meaning to you? When's the perfect time? Well, I'm going to go over some myths about that, and then two, give you some kind of tips of what's happened to me the two different times I've done this. So if you don't know my background, I did this once. I worked for a great company for about 9 years, and I quit that to start my very first company, which you can imagine super, super stressful. It was my first time doing it. I learned a lot. And then I did it again a few years after that and went into an industry that was completely unrelated. So first time I went to a similar industry where I had some of the similar clients I was able to still keep working with. And then the next time was literally, from financial services to fishing here to Salt Strong. Completely different, and learned some completely different lessons in each of these. Let me tell you about some of the myths first. The first myth kind of ties in with this headline I put on there, which is like, when's the perfect moment? There's not a perfect moment. It'll never be perfect. And it's the same as like having kids. If you've had kids or even been married, any of those big steps in life, there is never a perfect time. There will always be excuses that you could make not to do it. I will tell you this, though, that there are times that are better than others. And let me give you one of the biggest lessons I learned. You need to have a business that, one, has a mission. If you haven't read my book, Fishing for Happiness, I talk a lot about that. You need to have a business that has some type of purpose or underlying mission or cause besides just making money. My first business, I woke up honestly kind of miserable a lot of the time. I was making a ton of money at one point, then was spending a whole lot of money, and it was just the whole deal was always about money. It was never so much about helping other people or having a real true cause behind it. And it sounds crazy, but so many of us get into businesses or even have jobs where there is no purpose, no meaning. And a lot of times you wake up saying like, what the heck am I doing? So I encourage you to get a job or start a company or start something that has some type of purpose or mission. Really define that why. I mean, there's a lot of books on that in the business world, like defining your why. I mean, Simon Sinek's book is amazing about why, like finding out your why in business. And companies like Apple, I mean, big companies that have that why really defined tend to do a whole lot better. The other thing is, don't start something that just because you're passionate about it, you think it's going to work. I'm really passionate. I love drinking beer and reading a book in a hammock. And yet I haven't found anyone who's going to pay me to do that yet, unfortunately, and probably never will. So you can't do something. People say, oh, follow your dreams, follow the stuff that you love doing. To an extent, you need to have something that you love doing and you love passionate about, but at the same point that someone will buy. You have to be able to sell something at the end of the day. And that's kind of my myth I want to bust. Number two is that just because you're passionate about something and you think you have a cool product, it doesn't mean it's going to work. And a lot of times, I mean, at least half the businesses fail in the first few years. And that's usually because you do have something you're passionate about, something that you love. Maybe it is a great product, but you think it's just going to sell itself. And I'm sorry, that is not the case. And you might look at other companies and say, oh gosh, that sold itself. That is never the case. What you don't see behind closed doors, behind the scenes, you see people, usually the founders or employees, that are busting their tails. And there's been so much time and so much energy and so many mistakes made and so much trial and error behind the scenes to get a company to the point where it looks like it is just natural and organic. But very, very rarely does something just grow and explode organically. And people thought that about us at Salt Strong. We were here in our third year. I was like, you have no idea how hard we struggled those first, really 2 years of blogging every single day. I mean, we didn't take a day off for the first 8 months. And I mean like 7 days a week, not like taking a Friday off. We literally worked 7 days a week. We put new content up for 8 months straight. And I remember the first day I took a day off, I kind of felt guilty. But at the same point, I was like, this is crazy. So always keep in mind, there is going to be a ton of hard work. and you're going to have to learn how to sell. That's really my best advice is if you have a company you're starting and you have a cool product or a service, you're going to have to learn how to sell yourself. Even if you think, oh, salespeople, that's just not me. They're pushy. That doesn't mean you have to be pushy, but you need to be passionate, and you have to have the courage, not be afraid to go knock on doors, or go get on the telephone. Like, you have to be reaching out to people and influencers and other businesses or other partners and people you can collaborate with. You have to be doing that nonstop, or it will probably not work. The other myth I want to really hit, that people have asked me a lot, oh, do you have to have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of savings or a certain amount of backers? Absolutely not. There's never a perfect number there. For most people, I would encourage you not to have any backers. I mean, to have full control in the beginning, and it might be that an opportunity presents itself later where someone wants to buy some equity, but in the beginning, I would highly encourage you not to raise money or to try to raise a lot of capital. First and foremost, as I alluded to, find something that is going to sell, because if you can start selling it and then making a little bit of money, a lot of the rest of the stuff will start falling into place. I mean, once you have profit, then golly, you can start hiring someone. You don't have to have capital. And in most cases, most small businesses are not going to have capital. You're not going to have VC money, and the stuff that you see on the news and companies like Facebook and Snapchat and these things, and that's one in a billion. I mean, that's so rare that you're going to see a company like that does not have to have profits and does not have to make money. It's absurd. A company like Snapchat can lose $500 million and still be valued at what it is. That is not going to be your company. So get that out of your head and realize that day one, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell your mission and your purpose and why you're so excited about this product or service that you have. That is critical. And the final thing here, I'm looking at the time, I want to tell you kind of the three phases, and this is what's going to happen. It's happened in my two companies. It's happened in most all my friends' companies, and these three phases that you're going to go through. And I want to warn you, because one of them is really, really tough and almost kind of hurtful, but this happens every time. This is just life. And a lot of the business books I read said the same thing along these same lines of these three kind of phases you go through when you do start your own company. Phase number one is everyone's excited for you. You quit your job, you put in your notice, and you got something, a product or service, whatever it is that you're doing, and usually everyone's excited for you in the beginning. Your competitors don't really see you as a competitor yet. Everyone's just like, oh, great, yeah, they're doing something they enjoy. Good for them, and you'll get a lot of support from friends and family, and then that kind of dies off. And then you're kind of on your own to kind of build that momentum. And that's going to take a little while. And depending on your company and just the momentum you have, it could take a year, 2 years, just while you're in that phase where a lot of excitement in the beginning, friends and family back you, and then it kind of like dies down a little bit as you have to grow it naturally yourself. And then you hit stage two, and this is the one this is the worst. And this is where most businesses fail, by the way. And this is stage two, brutal stage. And this is the stage where all of a sudden you have built a little momentum. You've got out of stage one, and now you're actually making some money. Maybe you've hired your first person or your fifth person. Like, you're now a true small business making some real revenue and have social media following. Like, people are now hearing about you, and now that means that your competitors actually look at you like you're a competitor. They now take you serious, and they're going to start trying to knock you down every which way possible. A lot of your friends and even some of your family will be jealous about you at this stage. In the beginning, that first stage, they're going to be rooting for you and might even say behind your back that you're crazy and, oh, what are you doing? What is so-and-so doing? They must be nuts. But stage number two, it changes. And a lot of people, I think, are in their cubicle jobs, and they're honestly, they're jealous. And I've seen this with close friends and even some family members where they have become almost kind of hurtful and hateful, and it's sad, but I understand why. I mean, most of them, they are kind of living vicariously through you, and they see your success and honestly are jealous of it and start talking trash behind your back. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it will happen, so be prepared for it. And you'll have people then start talking bad about you on social media. In the beginning, everyone loves you, you're new, no one really cares, they're happy for you. But in that stage two, I mean, it's the first time in both my companies I realized that people were slandering us, if that's what you want to call it, and talking crap behind our back, putting stuff on social media about why we suck or whatever it might be. And you have to ignore it, and you have to just keep pushing on and getting to step number 3 or level number 3. And once you get there, that's when you're out of that path. And then you're always going to have the hitters after that. But it's stage number 3 is when you truly have like a profitable company. You have systems in place and processes in place. And that's where we are now. It took us 3 years to get there. And then that's really when the fun happens, where you can take a step back and really focus on the business and not have to work at it 8 days or 7 days a week, 8 hours, 12 hours, 15-hour days. It makes it a whole lot easier when you can get to level number 3. And then that's when you can start attracting money. Like we did a licensing deal. If you're not familiar with Salt Strong, we did a licensing deal now where we're not having to fulfill this out of our house or out of our office. And that made life a whole lot easier. But it took us getting through stage number 1, which was when everyone was happy for us and we were happy-go-lucky and living off the seat of our pants, to stage number 2, where we actually started getting some traction, made a lot of mistakes, burned through some money, really just learned how to grow a business the tough way, and had to deal with some of the haters for the first time. And then now we're finally at the very beginning of stage number 3, and that's going to be a whole nother stage for us and for you as well, where you have to really scale that puppy, where you have to really get your company to grow. So that's my best advice. There's never going to be a perfect time. Just like having a kid, if it feels good, and if you got a product or service that, get one buyer, just get one customer that's not your mom or dad or cousin or, sibling, and just get some feedback and ask them. That's my other last piece of advice. Ask your clients what you can improve or what they want to see out of it. Even if you just have one, that's all it takes. They will give you some of the best advice ever. And every time that we've not listened to our awesome tribe, our Salt Strong tribe, we usually have a product that stinks. And every time we've listened to them and just reached out and said, hey, give us some honest feedback, sometimes you'll get stuff that you never even thought about. And they will make the best product because they're telling you, here's what we will buy. So always listen to your customers. Get 1 or 2. Obviously, the more the better, but it just starts with 1 or 2 customers and listen to them, and then just start growing with them and treat those people amazingly well. Don't forget who brought you to the dance. Those first customers, could be lifelong customers and could really be a big game changer for you. So never best time. Don't worry so much about the money. Worry about getting that first customer. Worry about getting a good product and just continually making it better. And then finally, I mentioned it earlier, get the other P, which besides product is processes and systems in place. Once you have that, it makes it a whole lot easier to scale and to hire people and say, here's the process for this job role. Here's what you're going to be doing. It makes it a whole lot easier. So that's it. I went way over on this episode, but it's an important one. I'll probably do a whole lot more on this because it's one of the top questions I get because it does revolve around happiness and fulfillment and finding a more fulfilling life and potentially even lifestyle. And I think it really is critical. And it's critical that, as I said, there'll never be a perfect time. Just do it and say adios to the old job if you hate it, especially if you're not happy with your job. So that's it. Make sure to pick up a copy of Fishing for Happiness. I talk a lot about those same themes in the book, just as it applies to your life and how you can apply it to a business or to your personal life, or even if you are just an employee and want to be an employee forever, that's great. How to apply a lot of those same mantras and same ways of finding more meaning and purpose into that life. So pick you up a copy today on Amazon. That's it. Joe Simonds Like Diamonds over now.